Minister, a lot of emphasis has been put on Dublin tonight for obvious reasons, but you know, for someone from a more rural area and who travels through a lot of rural areas and getting to Dublin, you know, you don't have to travel very far through villages, towns, and indeed coming into Dublin to actually see dereliction and in vacancy, and that's what this motion is all about tonight, and that's why we're asking that government tackle it, and I'll go into some more of that as well, because it's been said here that we have almost 13,000 people on availing of homeless services, yet the figure, whether it be 50, 60 or 160,000 vacant premises, as Senator Fitzpatrick rightly says, it's a lot easier to bring them back into family homes than it is to start building on greenfield sites or brownfield sites. So I think that's part of the motion here tonight, that we're asking government to ensure that whatever figure that is, be it 50, 60 or 160,000, that every effort is made to ensure that those become family homes, and that's part of what we are actually saying tonight. And emphasis has also been put on community facilities, and we've heard European funds, etc., mentioned tonight, but a lot of the people I deal with have never heard of that before, and what's available there out there in relation to converting. And you can look whatever way you want, Senator, in relation to this, but we go through a lot of towns and villages, and through not only my own county but other counties, but they're crying out for youth facilities, they're crying out for community facilities, and they're crying out for exhibition spaces, etc. And that's something that these derelict buildings in the middle of these towns and villages would be ideal for, if people would work and ensure that we could actually return them to such. And of course, one of the biggest problems that we get when we talk about derelict buildings is the actual ownership of them. You know, the vacant tax is proposed to identify that, but the name that's over the door could be there 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and it's very hard when people are going along to try and identify that. And that's a problem that I've seen and dealt with over many years in relation to trying to pinpoint that. And I know that's something that the tax has been brought in for, but I hope it will address that once and for all. The CPO process has been mentioned, and it has been asked to be changed or streamlined as well, and there is issues with that. I think everybody's got to accept that. I know when that sign goes up on that derelict house, it is misleading for some, unfortunately, and there are issues then when an owner comes out of the woodwork at the last minute in relation to that, and that has happened with some of the local authorities that I have spoken to, and it's something that needs to be addressed, I think, in streamlining the CPO process. But one of the big issues that I wanted to address tonight, Minister, is what happens in local authorities. A lot of mention has been made to local authorities, and what we need here is an emphasis on local authorities ramping up what they actually do. Waterford's been mentioned here, and let's compliment Waterford. It's been mentioned a couple of times tonight, and yes, a number of people who visited recently complimented Waterford, but other places that I'm dealing with, including Dublin City, there is dereliction. There's the forgotten town, you would have heard that yourself, Minister, in relation to a forgotten village, where people are looking at the dereliction and nobody's doing nothing about it. And what they're asking for, and what we're asking for in our motion, is a ramping up that each local authority would use the various methods that have been mentioned by government parties and additional methods to ensure that these vacant properties are and do become family homes and indeed community facilities, because that's what needs to happen. Like Senator Cummins mentioned, that there's some local authorities not doing the various issues that he had, and some others are very good at it. My own local authority happened to be very good at it. But that doesn't excuse the fact that government are responsible for overall in relation to local authorities, and we should be emphasising the fact that we need to bring all ships up, and we need to ensure that each local authority is given the funding, and is giving the vacancy officer, which we already have, but is also given the town regeneration officer, which some of them have, some of them don't. So this is what needs to happen. Another issue that, when I talk to local authorities, is in relation to clerk of works. So what we have then is we identify a local property, we send somebody out to look at to prepare tender documents. Some people, some local authorities have access to that, again, some local authorities don't. That should be part of the overall package that we're asking that government address, to ensure each local authority have that specific clerk of works in relation to vacancy, that they go out and prepare these documents and ensure that that cost can be done. And then there's an issue then, and after that, what happens when that tender documents is there, because what happens in relation to that, we're still going to the same framework as we're doing with Housing Maintenance, Minister. That brings in another issue in relation to apprenticeships and that we have mentioned before. In my time left, Minister, I just want to raise an issue with you, which is also part of the document, and is something I've raised with you continuously over the last 2 years, and that's housing adoption grants. I had, with the previous Minister, Mr Noonan, was in here, commenced the matter 2 years ago, when I was told that there was a report going to be prepared in relation to housing adaptation and indeed housing aid for older people grants. We still haven't seen that. It's a huge problem in each local authority, because that will address some of the dereliction that we've seen in relation to this, that people can actually use that grant, which is a very good grant, and it does what it says on the label, but unfortunately local authorities are struggling, and more importantly those tenants that are actually using the grants and those people who are actually applying for the grants are struggling, because building costs and indeed heating costs have gone through the roof, and they're not keeping pace. And there's a lot of local authorities now have sent out recently in relation to that they're reducing the amount of money that's available, and also the fact that they're reducing the grant itself. So they're waiting on that report that is now 2 years on a desk somewhere, Minister. And again, I ask you to comment on that tonight. I know some other TDs and indeed senators have asked you that recently in this, but that grant can make a difference. But the bottom line, has been said here in the start, what we're asking in this, which has been agreed by everybody, is that we want to see the lights turned back on in every town and village, not just Waterford, but we want to see Dublin as our capital city, and we want all those other little towns in between as you travel the M9, the M7, to ensure that they're not forgotten anymore, and that they're fit for purpose to have the family homes and also have the community spaces too.